All right, everybody. Welcome to Coach's Corner. So my name's Eric Whitaker, and I am the marketing manager for Well at Humana, and today's host. So if you're seeing my face for the first time, welcome to Coach's Corner. I know I'm not the usual host. Dana's usually the host, but today we're switching it up, probably because our topic lends itself for me being the host because I don't know a lot about it. So I can ask questions that make more sense and relate to all of you that might not know as much as well. So today's topic, it's a good one. I will say if you're like me and not a health professional, you might want to get your notepad out because our host, Dana, is going to be taking us to school today. So get ready. You're going to learn a lot. Give a wave, Dana, just so everybody, if they don't know you, they can see you on here. There you are. Thanks, Dana. So also, before we get into all this, I've seen questions on Yammer asking if these are recorded. They are. So if you know a coworker that's not able to make it on live, be sure to invite them to our community. Have them follow us in that community. They can check them out there. That's where we post them after the Coach's Corner. So today's topic, what is it? So it's macronutrients. We've all heard that, right? So it's macronutrients. Let us explain. Not us. Let Dana explain. Let the rest of the coaches explain. We'll go from there. So before we get right into it, Dana, we have the hot seat 10 questions for you. Are you ready?
Yes. I'm ready.
All right. So for everybody who's new on here, hot seat 10 questions. Dana's going to answer these as they come to her mind, assuming they're safe for work. So here we go. Question number 1. Favorite springtime activity?
Hiking.
Nice. Go-to flavor of gum?
Spearmint.
Dream car?
Range Rover. Or
Favorite
G-Wagon.
Okay. Oh, G-Wagon. There you go. Favorite professional sport?
Basketball.
Winter Olympics or Summer Olympics?
Winter Olympics.
Would you try bobsledding? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you prefer your hair up or hair down?
Up.
Okay. Do you prefer being on a lake or an ocean? I think I know the answer to that one.
Lake.
Yeah. Favorite Super Bowl snack?
Queso.
Nice. All right. Last question. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
Go Bengals.
There you go. I know a lot of the Louisville crowds cheering for the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm not a Bengals fan, but like they've had a long go of it for a long time.
Right.
So I hope they take it away. They deserve it.
Yeah, I'm a huge Colts fan, so I'm a little heartbroken. A lot of good stuff going for us this offseason, but I am a Joe Burrow fan, so go Bengals. I'd rather see them win than the Rams.
For sure.
All right, so let's get right into macronutrients. So again, I am not the professional here talking about macronutrients. I will be asking the questions. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat as well. Some stuff may come up you don't know. Just put them in the chat. We'll get to them throughout the call here and hopefully answer those for you and clear up some stuff. So just to start out, Dana, tell us a little bit about what macronutrients even are.
Yeah, so nutrients are like required by the body to properly function, right? So we need nutrients. So nutrients maintain our brain, our skin, our bones, our muscles, our nerves, and some nutrients are required in higher amounts. So those are known as macronutrients because they're elements required in larger amounts. While few are required in smaller amounts, they are known as micronutrients. So take yourself back to your undergrad economics class with macro and micro. It's the same thing, just attached to nutrients. So overall, macronutrients are nutrients that are required by the body to properly function.
Awesome. So I've heard the term macro a lot. So there's probably what categories of macronutrients? Like what are those categories and how do those affect us or how do those work for us or work against us for that matter?
So it depends on who you talk to, but there are around 6 macronutrients that provide energy to our body. But there are, and I'm going to list the 6, but then I'm going to list the 3 main ones that you need to focus on. So the 6 are protein, carb, fat, fiber, water, and alcohol. So alcohol, yes, is considered a macronutrient, but it actually does nothing for your body. So that's why it's actually its own macronutrients, because it doesn't provide nutrient to the body. So that's why it's not mixed in with like carbs or protein or things like that. Your 3 main ones that you really need to focus on, and I know you probably heard these before, are proteins, carbs, and fat. So that's what constitutes a macronutrient. So when your coach, probably one of us, is sitting in front of you and is like, you need to get your macronutrients, or make sure you get enough macronutrients, and you're looking at them seriously like, I don't even know what you're, or like, are you talking English right now?
Me, what?
I don't even know. Most likely you're probably like, I don't even know what the hell that is, right? What those are proteins, carbs, and fats that provide you energy to your body that you need to function properly.
Okay, so for instance, like, I know I'm kind of guilty of this. I feel like I'm eating healthy when I just eat a salad for lunch. So that wouldn't be like, based on those categories, that wouldn't necessarily be balanced, right? That's just because that probably doesn't have a whole lot of protein, I'm assuming, or carbs, or.
So it's not bad, right? The proper way to go about this is like learning what constitutes as a protein, what food source falls under the category of a carbohydrate, what food source falls under the category of a fat. Now, while some may stay in their own lane, a lot cross-section, right? So you may have, let's say steak, for example, and I'll get to the salad question, I promise, but let's say steak, for example. That is a primary protein source. But depending on the type of cut you get, it's going to have a higher fat content. So it's going to be a primary protein source, but it may be a secondary fat source. So obviously, if you get a filet mignon, it's going to have a lot less fat than, say, a ribeye would, because it's a different cut of meat. So the best thing to do and where to start is learning, like, what are proteins, what are carbs, what are fats, and then go from there. Like with your salad question, it's not a bad thing, right? Like the late 90s, early 2000s started this trend of like good food versus bad food. Food is food. Like, that's it. Like, some is going to provide you with more nutrients than others, but nothing is like, this is good, this is bad. Don't eat this, eat that. Like, you can have whatever you want, but the best way to approach that is a balanced approach, and understanding that your body needs specific nutrients to function at a really high level. So if you're only putting crap in it, it's going to perform like crap. But if you're getting a more balanced approach, like, you know, with that salad, if you added chicken to it, if you added steak to it, then it would become a little bit more balanced, because you would have your vegetables, which vegetables fall under the category of a carbohydrate. Then you would have your protein to balance that out. So then your meal becomes a little bit more balanced overall, where you're just not getting just one source.
Nice. And that brings up a good point for me, which for our audience, also put this in the chat if you've heard this as well. But I've always heard, oh, there's good carbs and bad carbs. Well, there's good fats and bad fats. So you're saying with this, it is what it is. If it's a carb, it's a carb. It's not good or bad. If it's a fat, it's a fat. It's not good or bad.
That's a tricky one, because
Okay.
It depends on how you look at it, right? Everything's going to be a mindset, like how you're going to look at this. So there's going to be carbohydrates that have more simple sugars in it, right? That are going to be, without getting way too sciencey, because I don't want to go down that road at all. Like, let's not go down the rabbit hole when you don't need to. Some carbs are going to they call them simple carbs. They're going to release glucose more quickly. Your body's going to absorb them more quickly. Simple carb or complex carbs is going to take a little bit longer to break down. So that's what they deem good carbs versus bad carbs. So understand, like, from the good carbs, you're getting more nutrients because it has macronutrients in it. So that's where the micro and macro come together too. So the micronutrients are going to be things like potassium, iron, zinc, calcium, all of that. Those are the things that you are going to get from your food, just in smaller quantities, but your body needs those to properly function. There's, like, I think, and this is just off memory, I'm taking you back to graduate school here, but we have about 20 amino acids to have that have important functions within the body, and again, this is off memory, about 9 of them are essential, and they must be obtained by food. So out of the 20, you're gonna need to get 9 of, and I can't name them, don't ask me to name them, but you're gonna get 9 of those amino acids are essential for you to obtain through food. So that's where the good and bad comes in, right? And that's where the argument comes in, where I don't want to go too far down this, is that there's a difference between, like, calorie counting or macro counting. Yes, you can count calories and count macros and get an aesthetically pleasing figure, right? But also you need to consider the nutrients that you are getting from the micros and the food. Okay, so, like, it's a fine line. Like, I don't want to make it too complex because nutrition can already go that way anyway. So I want to say real simple there. You have simple carbohydrates, you have complex carbohydrates. Stick with the complex as much as you can, but the simple carbs are not going to kill you either. There's a time and place for that.
And with that being said, I mean, there's definitely resources out there, right, that says what food's a carb or what food fits in what category, correct, for the macros that people can find.
Like, all people need to do, like, straight up go to Google after this and Google macronutrient chart. And it's going to show you what's a protein, what's a fat, what's a carb. And, like, just to give you a quick rundown, like, for protein, it's usually going to be lean meats, eggs, some type of dairy. So, like, a lot, like, cottage cheese is a great one. Greek yogurt is a great one that's usually high in protein. Then your carb sources are going to come more from grains. So potatoes, rice, pasta, fruits, vegetables are both carbohydrates. So those of you wanting to cut carbs, like, watch yourself. Then fats come more from, like, lentils, beans, seeds, butters like peanut butter, almond butter. Those are more fat sources. So the sooner you can understand your sources of food, the better off you'll be, because then you can start to look at your plate and deem it as, like, a very balanced meal or a very unbalanced meal. And, like, honestly, Eric, the easiest way to go about, like, somewhat changing your eating habits, you know, if you're a person that is like, I'm not going to count calories, I'm not going to count macronutrients, that's absolutely fine. I would challenge you to learn what a protein, carb, and fat is, understand why you need them, which we can get into that if you'd like. But to understand that if I look at my plate and for breakfast, I was eating multigrain Cheerios and a banana. And that was my breakfast, right? Usually what breakfast stands for is breaking a fast, because you've been asleep for 12 hours, hopefully, or 6 hours for some. You're literally breaking a fast from when you ate last time, right? So at that time, if you're eating just carbohydrates, like, it's going to uptake that glycogen immediately. It's going to turn to glucose very quickly, and it's not going to keep you full for very long. So why not make that a more balanced meal like this morning, what I had to eat, I had 2 eggs, like a small everything English muffin with avocado on it. So, okay, I had my protein in my eggs, my English muffin was my carbohydrate, and my avocado was my fat. And I just put McDonald's to shame. They will never have something that tastes that good and that fresh, and it's that easy. Like, it doesn't have to be difficult. Just get a protein source, a carb source, a fat source, if you're just starting out and looking to understand nutrition a little bit better.
So my Cliff Bar and 4 cups of coffee wouldn't cut the macro scale.
No, you're getting way carbs compared to your protein sources there.
Yeah, I need to do way better. So, going along with what you just said, it kind of helps transition right into the next question I have is like, what's the breakdown? How do we know based on A, our body weight, B, our activity levels? Like, how do we know what to consume or how much macros of each category to consume?
Yeah. So there's about 1,000 ways to do this, right? So I'm not going to tell everyone this is how you have to do it, but this is like just a general outline, like known fact that you can do, right? I don't know how many calories you need, but a general rule is like you can take your body weight. So I weigh 138 pounds and I'm like, I need a calculator. So I'm going to use it. Like I weigh 138 pounds. If I multiply that by 12, it would recommend eating 1,656 calories. So a good baseline is take your body weight and multiply it from a range of 12 to 15, right? So on a low end, if I'm looking to like maybe lose weight, I would look to go more on the 12. If I'm looking to gain or maintain, 15, right? If you're a person that's been training a long time, like Randy's been looking to put on muscle, right? And a lot of people don't have that. They want to lose weight and things like that. Our coach Randy has been wanting to put on muscle and gain some weight. So like her calculation for overall calories that she needs to intake for the day, it may be over her body weight times 16. That's where you have to play trial and error to see like what's working, right? So, but a general rule is like your body weight, multiply it anywhere in the range of 12 to 15. And that's along the lines that you should probably be eating. Of course, it's going to depend on, here's what your BMR depends on. And that's your resting metabolic rate is your age, your height, your weight, and your activity level. So are you sedentary? How active are you during the week? But that is how many calories you burn just in your daily living. Like you wake up out of bed, you like brush your teeth, you bend over, pick something up. Like that's just while you're at rest. That's how many calories you need to be taking in. And most women will see when they do this that, oh my goodness, they're eating so much under what they should be eating. And that can be just as bad as overeating, is under eating where you're not seeing any type of progression. So that's one way to look at it. And then like, if you want to go into macros, a really even split, like I'll tell you the scientific ones, but I think everyone on this call will state that they agree with my second one a little bit more. So like if you read in certain books and things like that, daily calories, 45 to 65% should come from carbohydrates. Protein is 10 to 35%. And then fats are 20 to 35%. I found a really, really simple breakdown. If you really go down the rabbit hole and you're starting to track macros, is like a really good even place to start is a 40-40-20. So 40% protein, I always like to go on the higher end. That's the higher end. You really should be looking to get like a gram per pound, half a gram to a gram per pound. So if I weigh 138 pounds and I did a gram per pound, I would want to take in 138 grams of protein per day. I like to do a little bit higher than that, especially if you're weight training. Then your protein or your carbohydrates will be 40%, and then your fats 20%. You can play around with the protein and fats a little bit, I think, and figure out what works best for you. For me, I perform better on a little bit lower fats, a little bit higher carbohydrates, but that's going to be very individualized. And that's where you're going to have to take the time to do your homework. Like, I remember one time I wanted to see what I felt like on really low carb and really high fat. So my carbohydrates went down to like 15%, and my fat was like 60 something percent. I've never taken in so many fats in my life. I have trouble hitting my fat grams even. I performed terrible. I was soft everywhere. My muscles weren't full. My performance was crap. And I did this for like almost 5 months just so I could give myself some time to adjust and to see really if that was it. And then I switched back to my normal type of eating, type of split, where I went moderate carbohydrate and lower fat, and my performance kicked right back up. So you really have to play around with what works best for you, but those are some general numbers.
Awesome. Definitely good feedback. I know I've had a lot of notes on this stuff, but you brought up a good point with like you talking about your fats doing it for 5 months and to giving yourself an adjustment period. So if somebody goes and they start right after this call, I'm going to do this macro thing, I'm going to start tracking, what kind of time frame do they need for their body to adjust to the new way of eating for them?
So the body is just a beautiful thing. I think everyone on this call that studies this field, there was a time in graduate school where I was literally like, how do we even walk? Like, so many things have to happen, nervous system and things that are firing and signals. And then even when you go to the cellular aspect from a nutrition standpoint, so many things have to happen. But the body adapts so quickly. But you got to give it a minute. Like, it's not a text message. It's not going to, like, you start eating and you start losing weight. Quite the opposite. Like, if you start to uptake your protein and you've never been a person that takes in that much protein, you're probably going to feel real bloated, like, for probably the first 3 weeks. So if you got off this call and you're a woman and you weigh what I weigh, you weigh around 138 pounds and you've been eating 1,200 calories, and you're like, whoa, that's way too low. And you're like, I'm going to boost that up. I'm going to add in an extra meal. So you were eating 3 times a day. Now you switch it to 4, and you added in a protein shake, some berries, maybe something like a higher protein source, another piece of meat or something like that. Or you upped your meat at every meal. That's going to be more protein than your body has ever had to digest. So it's going to feel very bloated, but it's only that way because it's figuring out how to break that down. So eventually what's going to happen is your body's going to adapt. It's going to learn how to process that food, how to break it down, and then you'll eventually even out, right? And then you'll probably feel leaner than you've ever felt. But for the first, couple of weeks, your digestive system may be rocked a little bit where you may be gassy, you may be bloated. That's natural. That happens. Give it about 3 weeks to balance out, 3 to 4 weeks.
Awesome. And I want to kind of open this up to coaches too, to see if any of them have had any experience following like a more macro specific diet to see how their body has changed, what changed with them, if anything. So do we have any coaches that have done this?
I think you're on mute, Dakota.
Yeah, you're on mute, Dakota.
Can't hear you.
See your lips moving.
Nope.
All right. So, so outside of like your body changing, I know I've asked you this before, Dana, and it's about like, is there a way you can manipulate the percentages of which category you eat or drink, as this question pertains, to help with like, say, joint pain as we get older in the knees or shoulders and whatnot?
I would say with that, like there's gonna be a couple of things, but one, like monitoring your intake of water. Like for joint pain, like that's gonna be making sure you have enough fluids and that you're hydrated so that's not rubbing together. You know, ladies and gents, 2 bottles of water is not enough. You need adequate, consistent amount of water. That is one thing I will say that it's just a game changer. I mean, if you become consistent in drinking water, I drink a gallon of water a day. That may be excessive for some, but you should drink around the ounces of body weight that you are at least. And it should be your main source of what you're drinking day in and day out. I mean, it's going to help with your skin. It's going to help with your body function. It's going to help with the oils that you produce, like everything with your joints, things like that. And then also, this doesn't pertain to food, but, you know, as we age, is continuing to move like you're not aging. Continue to move like a child. Continue to, you know, you see a child squat. Like, have you ever seen a kid that's not potty trained and they squat to go to the bathroom? Like, just their squat is beautiful. When we age, we cannot squat like that because we are sitting in a chair. We are driving in a car all the time. So it's important that as we age, we continue to strength train, especially like for bone density. It doesn't have to be anymore for aesthetic purposes, right? As we age, we know we don't look as good as we did in our 20s. But, you know, at that point, it becomes about being able to function as an adult without pain. And the ability to do that is keep your bone density high and, you know, eat nutrient dense foods. Make sure you're getting enough vegetables. And that's where really micronutrients come into play. I know they're required in a lesser amount, but they are giving you the vitamins and minerals that you need through food for adequate function of the body. So water, vegetables, fruits, and make sure you're lifting those weights.
That's kind of the direction I was going next, is like, how do we get back into fitness with this? And one thing I've heard, others in the audience may have heard this as well, like getting into shape and looking good and feeling good. It's like 80% nutrition and 20% fitness. Like, is that true? Does this macronutrient diet hold up to that? How does that all work?
So I would say nutrition is king. It always is. It always will be. I would say we're into fitness, and a lot of us are meatheads on here. So we love a good strength training session. So I'll always say fitness is important, but more importantly, movement is important, right? It doesn't have to be lifting weights. It can be a walk with your family. It can be hiking. It can be climbing. It can be anything that brings you joy, like for overall health. But I would say aesthetically, to keep yourself in check, like nutrition is always going to be king. Like, and that's the piece that people struggle with the most. And honestly, for good reason. It is hard. It is not easy. It is not convenient. It is something that you truly have to make a priority in your life. And you don't have to do macros, right? But it goes back to, you need to understand what macros are in order to eat properly, right? You do not have to count. You do not, like, if you have a specific goal and you want to lose like 20 pounds, I would recommend like to track your calories for a little bit and see how it's going, right? Track your calories, track your macro breakdown, work with a coach. That's where I would recommend, like, you have a very specific goal. But if your overall overarching goal is to be fit and to be healthy, then understand proteins, carbs, and fat, and then balance each meal around those 3 categories. And if you do that, you can be successful. But I think it goes back to what I was talking to you about yesterday, Eric, is creating foods that you cook every week. Because let's be honest, if we eat healthy or we eat like crap, we're still eating the same thing over and over again. Like, every family has their set of recipes that they eat. They may not eat it every week, but, you know, in my family, it was always like it was like a taco rotation, spaghetti. Like, I mean, there was consistent
100%.
things that your family. The same thing when you're healthy. So find versions that you can eat and find healthier options, right? I was telling Eric
Right.
yesterday, like, I had a steak burrito the other day, and when people hear steak burrito, they're like, well, how can that be healthy? Well, I found a healthier, a more nutrient dense tortilla, and there's tons out there. I forgot, I sent it to Eric yesterday. It's called, I'm looking it up right now. It's called like, Eric, do you remember? It's
No, I'm
called
trying to find it too.
La Banderita. It's a carb counter. It has like, it tastes identical to what a Mission all white tortilla would taste like. It has 11 grams of fiber, 15 grams of carbs, like 5 grams of protein, and like 1 gram of fat. So great content, right? Then I used filet steak. So I used a filet mignon that I cut and seared. So I used steak, avocado, spinach, bell peppers, and I put some cheese on it too, just because, you know, cheese is good. And it was freaking excellent. So at that point, I got my carbohydrate because I had 2 of them. So I had, which equals 30 grams because each one was 15 from the tortillas. I got my vegetables through the spinach and bell peppers, and I got my protein through the steak, and then I got my fat through the avocado. Like, that is a perfectly balanced meal, and it was fire. Like,
Nice.
it's just finding, there you go. Those are it.
Nice.
They got them.
Nice.
So so I used to be on the Dakota train and have Extreme Wellness. And then one of my friends that's like very much into nutrition and fitness told me about these, and like, there's no way they're better than Extreme Wellness. Oh, they're fire. Give them a try. They're giving regular tortillas that are probably like 45 grams of carbs and a lot of refined sugars. It gives them a run for their money.
Yeah,
So it's a simple thing.
Yeah, for sure. Another example, I mean, especially for those of us, you know, if we start to return to the offices and whatnot, we have those little, you know, plastic containers carrying leftovers, right, for the little office microwave. Well, instead of having the whole container as, you know, spaghetti, what if we broke the spaghetti down in half? We had a little salad and some turkey meatballs in there, right? I know I talked to you about that yesterday, Dana. I mean, that works, right?
Yeah. You know, who doesn't love spaghetti? I had some noodles today, but I had a lean ground turkey and a lean ground beef in there, and then I had some, like, a salad with just, it was very plain, but it had like some spinach and stuff in it, so it just balanced it out. I'll also tell you one thing that has really helped me. It's so minute, but it's a game changer too, is I used to eat, like, for lunch, all my meals out of like plastic Tupperware container. And I always just felt like, blah, like I'm eating another container meal. And then now I'm an adult. You officially become an adult when you have glass Tupperware. I got them for Christmas. And now for lunch, like, I pack my lunch and I bring it in the glass Tupperware. I swear it changes everything, because you actually feel like you're eating like a nice meal that's made in this bowl instead of like this old crappy stained container. It has changed my lunches, I swear. Nothing about the food has changed. It's just the container, and they're spill proof. So I would suggest some glass Tupperware so you can become an adult.
Nice. I know we're starting to come up on time here, so I want to give Dakota another chance. How has macros affected your life?
Is it working now?
Hey, there we go.
Oh, okay. Well, you had asked earlier if we had played with macros and if anything has worked for us. And I just wanted to say, I share this with all my clients. I used to track religiously, and I think that tracking through something like MyFitnessPal is a great place to start, because it teaches you what you're eating in a day and how what you're eating in a day falls into those macronutrient categories. But since I've really learned through tracking, I have stopped tracking with an actual tracker, and now I just track my protein, and I'll kind of let my carbs and fats fall into place, because I look at it as protein. The function of protein is for rebuilding your body, because your body's constantly breaking down, whether that's your skin or your muscles, and carbs and fats are energy substrates. So like Dana was saying, some people respond better to more carbs and more fats. And I just let those fall into place for me. And I tend to do like, it falls into about 40% carbs for me, 30% fat, and 30% protein.
Awesome. That's very good knowledge there. Can you put that tracker that you used to use in the chat so everybody can see what it was?
I said MyFitnessPal, but I really like Fat Secret. That one's a good one. Okay. And but I'll stick those in there.
Okay.
Classes too. Like I tracked for years, like 10 plus. But probably for the last like 4, I haven't tracked anymore. And like Dakota said, it's really just a good learning tool to understand what is what falls into what, and then to kind of gauge where you're at when you start. I would also highly suggest, if you are on this call and you download MyFitnessPal, please reach out to one of these coaches to help you set your calorie range, because MyFitnessPal will be drastically off, I promise. So reach out to one of these coaches. They can assist. Reach out to me. I can assist in at least getting you on the right track of like what the amount you should be eating, just because a lot of times it's a little off. I think it's a little bit better than it used to be because it's more mature now, but it used to be a little bit off in the recommendation.
Awesome.
One thing I touch on, Eric, real quick, because Dakota on it, is at least tell the audience, like, we didn't really talk about what protein does, what fat does, and what carbs do. Yep. And I really want to understand that, like, with protein sources, its main proponent, like its main job in your body is to build and repair tissue and muscle. So it's providing structure for your organs. It's also helping maintain a proper pH balance in your body. It's creating enzymes and hormones, but its primary function is repairing tissue and muscle. With carbs, it's actually broken down into glucose when it's digested. So it's instant energy. It's actually the body's preferred energy source for the body's brain, for your central nervous system, and your red blood cells. So when you look at diets that are like drastically cutting out whole food sources, of course individuals are going to lose weight, because ultimately the overarching picture is they're intaking less calories. That's why they're losing weight, not just because they took out carbs. Okay, it's because they're taking in less calories. And what they don't realize is, like, carbs are your main source of energy. And also, like, from digestion, like, fiber helps promote like healthy bowel movements. You're getting your fiber from your carbs. Carbs help you feel fuller longer, so you're not munching on stuff all the time. Also, they store energy. So like glucose stores as glycogen in your muscles, and so for later use when you need energy, it's pulling from your carbohydrate storage. Then fats overall, they digest actually into fatty acids. So what they do is their main function is like for hormones, skin, nails, hair. They also store energy, as well as create cell membrane health. So all of these are very important pieces for the body to run properly and support your everyday function.
Awesome. And I was going to ask you, especially when you break down proteins, I've went through a phase where I wanted to experiment with vegetarian meals to see how that helped or affected my body. What are some protein substitutes that people can use if they are vegetarian or vegan?
So I'm going to turn it over to one of our vegetarians. You know I'm calling on you, Randy. I will say a lot of vegetarians or vegans do struggle with that. That's one of their main struggles, is hitting their protein source. So there's some creative ways that you can do that, but know that it's not as easy as eating meat, but that's not a reason to not do it, right? So Randy, can you tell us a little bit about how you get your protein supplements in?
Yes. So can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I eat a lot of black beans. I have protein shakes. As Dana said, I'm trying to gain weight, so this has been a experience, to say the least, becoming vegetarian and trying to gain weight. There's tofu. If you like tofu, I know that everybody's a little bit iffy about that. If you still eat dairy, I'm not big on dairy, but if you still enjoy dairy, dairy is a great source. So like yogurts, cheeses, things like that. Lentils, you really kind of play with it and find ways to add in more, because it is taking in more vegetables and more trying to find those protein sources that can give you enough protein in your diet. Usually eggs and peanut butter are like my go-tos in the morning. So not together, just to clarify. I have a lot of like avocado toast or like protein waffles with peanut butter and some fruit. Eggs are in there like every single day. I have eggs every single day. So yeah, protein powder is a big one for me for trying to gain weight. But I know that that's a little iffy for everybody. If you don't like protein powders, you have to kind of play with it there.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Randy. I know when I tried the vegetarian thing, we always struggled with finding that substitute. So guys, we're up on time. So before we get kicked off of Zoom here, I hope everybody learned something about macronutrients. Thanks, Dana, for breaking all that down. If you guys have any more questions for our audience members out there, feel free to reach out. You can either email well@humana.com, or you can shoot us a Teams message to any of our coaches. We'd be happy to help you out. Also, check out our PEPs that we have on our virtual fitness SharePoint site. You can find a lot of good information there. You can sign up for that. You can go through this process with our coaches, get all that set up. I know we've had some really good feedback from other associates out there that have gone through that process. So check it out. Also, come back to our Coaches Corners. We do this every other week. So we'll be doing this 2 Tuesdays from today, same time, same place. Follow our Yammer community if you aren't, which I'm assuming you are since you found the link to this today. But tag some other associates, bring them in with you, because you all can bounce questions off each other, ask us in this forum. It just makes it a more interesting talk, if you will, for everybody to kind of chime in at the same time. So until next time, thanks again for joining, guys. We will see you next time.
See you guys.